the Blue Jays for 4 and Guardians for 3. So that makes 14, 15, 16, 17 in a row. Get after it. Welcome to Mission Control. It is May 22nd, 2023, and Jose Altuve is back. Thank goodness. Not that Mauricio Dubon did not do enough, but having Altuve back is just a little bit different. Some other notable notes. Other notable items. Framber Valdez with a complete game shutout to finish off this homestand versus the A's, and Hunter Brown setting a new career high for strikeouts with 9 in his 6 innings of work against the A's a few days ago. This wrapped up a homestand sweep of the Cubs and the Athletics. That makes 7 in a row for the Astros so far in May. Houston is 12-6, which is a nice change of pace considering how April kind of got started for us. The 12-6 so far in May helped us kind of climb back in the rankings here a little bit. Still are 2 games behind the Rangers for the AL West. So, leading up through the preseason and through spring training, the Swing for Contact boys and I were talking about how it might be kind of fun if the Rangers and the Astros were both good, and they might both be good right now. So that's a good thing to have. Some issues I kind of have with where we currently are, though, there's kind of 2 glaring holes I feel like on this team as of right now, and we're about to get kind of battle tested because of it, I think. First base obviously was not an addition at this point. I don't like giving up on players fast, especially guys that have career resumes. But currently, man, Jose Abreu is 3rd on the team in at-bats. In 45 games, he has 172 at-bats. So we're getting close to that 200 at-bat kind of margin where, for me, I kind of start going, okay, 200 at-bats, you get a pretty good idea of what you're going to get out of this guy. So far in the 45 games, Abreu has 37 hits, 7 doubles, no homers, 45 strikeouts, a triple slash of 215, 278, 256, nothing over that 300 mark, which gives him an OPS at 534. And at first base, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough for the salary point. It's not good enough for his career, for kind of his legacy in baseball. This has been a really, really poor first half, I guess you could say, really. Everything on Baseball Savant is poor. I was kind of hoping maybe there'd be some red bubbles in there that kind of shows, hey, there's just been some unluckiness, or sometimes when you're tuning in, the eye test just isn't quite right. But when the numbers, the eye test, and the underlying statistics all kind of point to this being bad, you gotta kind of call it what it is. Do I think Jose Abreu has the ability to come out of this and have a good summer or a really good second half and be productive still for this Houston team? Yes. Am I in the same position I was a month ago, saying that he will come out of it? I'm kind of leaning towards no, honestly, at this point. I'm kind of at the point where I'm a little bit out on Jose Abreu officially. His last home game, there was a bases loaded situation. with less than 2 outs and essentially reached out, got in front of a breaking ball, rolled over to third base, stepped on third, third first, double play, no run scores. Kind of late in the game, in a 2-run game, you have the lead, but like that is an RBI spot for your cleanup hitter. Man, I don't know if you watch that enough times, you kind of start to lose faith in that guy being able to get the job done. And that's kind of where I know I am, and where I think a lot of Houston fans are right now. When you're replacing a guy that was so tied to the fan base and Yuli Gurriel, who, I get it, did not have a very good offensive season last year, but you were getting spectacular glove work with him, and your fan base loved him. And to sign a 3-year, essentially $20 million deal to get this production with a average first base glove, it's kind of hard to swallow, I think, for a lot of people. So I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm out at first base, and I'm like, okay, Mauricio Dubon, you've never played first base before, but might be time to learn it. Or getting Yainer Diaz some first base reps, or getting almost anyone some first base reps. I know Yordan doesn't like playing first base anymore, but he's done it before, and maybe it's time for him to bust out the first base glove again. I don't know. I know there was some eggs put into the Michael Brantley basket about him getting some first base reps and being a guy, but after his shoulder setback, which I'll get to here in a second, doesn't look like a very good option. David Hensley had not been producing at all really at the major league level, and was sent back down to kind of work on some things, so that's not really an option right now. The first base problem continues. The other kind of glaring thing that has me a little bit worried are the arm injuries. Obviously Lance McCullers has not thrown a pitch yet this season, and he's kind of been pushed back closer to the All-Star break now at this point. At first we were kind of hoping for like a mid-May, late May. Then it became, well, maybe Altuve and McCullers will be rehabbing at the same time in the minors, to, okay, now forget June, like it's more like July, which is a little bit worrisome. I know there were reports of him throwing fastball variations, a sinker cutter type stuff from bullpen mounds, and kind of throwing his off-speed stuff, his breakers on flat grounds. And the other day he threw a flat ground instead of a bullpen, and some concerns were raised off of that. So the fact that he is not where he needs to be in late May, and we'll keep pushing this date further back, kind of has me worried. It might look like the same schedule he had last year, which, again, if you get really good production for after the All-Star break from Lance, kind of all can be forgiven. But if this is going to be the yearly routine, it also starts to be like, okay, well, we might need to look at other options, because there's only so many 40-man pitching spots you can dish out to guys to be contenders year in and year out. Which, following that, with Luis Garcia going down, with Tommy John being out until 2024, is obviously a major issue. And then Jose Urquidy looking more like a July return as well. So it's possible you get Lance and Jose back with this All-Star break, between the All-Star game and trade deadline, something like that. Which, again, in that sense, you're kind of getting 2 pitchers off of your deadline, which is a help. I know from the 40-man perspective, you've got Dubin and Whitley still hanging out in AAA, along with Paredes, Taylor, and Blanco. I would think that if another starter went down, probably Whitley would probably get the call first. But as far as guys that you can bring in and plug in holes with in your starting rotation, already having to bring up Belak and JP France means that your depth down low on your 40-man is starting to kind of face some challenges. And so it would surprise me at all, man, to see trade deadline maybe a 3 or 4 kind of an arm, a starting rotation guy being brought in. Doesn't have to be a huge splash. I think you still feel good about the arms you have postseason time if nothing else happens and you get Lance and Jose back. But I think during the regular season and having a potential guy to maybe play swingman with come postseason or in October, being able to add that flexibility to your team, I think becomes kind of important. Not that Belak or France can't get that job done, but you start to, like I said, the depth becomes an issue if you have another injury. And so adding somebody to that rotation, I think would be a good move. And then, there has to be something you can do either inside the organization at first base to get better production from, or maybe you find a way to eat a lot of this money, maybe clean your hands of it. You could trade for a first baseman. I would imagine Colorado would probably be trying to trade a CJ Crone, or find another outfielder that has some first base experience, like a Jock Peterson or something like that. But there just has to be something that you can do if this bat does not come alive by the time the deadline looms closer. And based off the information that I'm kind of picking up with my eye, with the eye test from me, and then from the Baseball Savant stuff with the analytic page, and there's just not a lot of red bubbles. It's a lot of blue bubbles, and that's worrisome. So between adding another arm and trying to find something to do to plug this 2-year hole at first base, I kind of thought this might be the Jose Abreu we got in year 3 of that contract. I was willing to bite that bullet come year 3 for 2 solid years still. And I think if your OPS here is closer to 780, 800, there's no issues. But an OPS under 550, on-base percentage under 300, 0 home runs, and where half your games are at Minute Maid Park as a right-hand hitter, and that's tough. But this last little note here, this Houston team has the 25th off. We're going to Milwaukee, I think, for this trip. Yeah, we start off with Milwaukee tonight, and then going to play the A's again, but this time in the Coliseum. They have the 25th off, continuing our having Thursdays off streak since the start of the season. But from the 26th, when we start the series with the A's, until June 11th, there are 0 off days or travel days. And so that depth and that bench are about to really be tested for the first time. A stretch of 17 games, series that includes the Twins, the Angels are coming to Minute Maid. So if you want to go see Trout Ohtani, that first weekend in June that happens. Going up to the Rogers Center, so going from the Angel series in Houston to the Blue Jays up in Toronto, and then to the Guardians, and then finally an off day after the 11th. So 17 games where that pitching rotation is going to be asked to go out every 5 days with no extra off day. The bullpen is going to be asked to to pick up the pieces where it is and close out games, and then that bench, and working Altuve to a point where he's still kind of in ramp up mode. I think a little bit. You can't expect him to take a month and a half off and after 4 or 5 minor league games just be ready. He did get himself an RBI single and started that second game with a hit. So it's still Altuve, but I think being able to work Dupont in, whether it's at second base, whether it's a shortstop, at center field, he I think has earned his opportunity to play ball in some areas. I wouldn't mind seeing him at first either. I wouldn't mind seeing Bregman play a little first. Maybe Bregman goes to first for a few games here and there, and you let Dupont play a little third. I don't know. There's some ball that needs to be kind of figured out, I think, from a roster construction standpoint there. But point is, 17 games in a row coming up here, and so getting that bench, getting that pitching depth ready to go is obviously really important. So, the second half of this has been kind of doom and gloom, but at the end of the day, 7 in a row, sweeping of a homestand, watching Fromber throw a complete game, which helps immensely. Hunter Brown setting his career strikeout number, Altuve being back, and you're right back in the thick of things with the West being 2 games behind for the lead. So, it's not all bad. There's a lot of good things that are happening right now. Just with the kind of the arm issues with those 3 starting pitchers, kind of back to back to back, all kind of coming up, and then just the continued Jose Abreu issues at the plate. 2 kind of glaring issues that I have, but I think for now, where we are, I'm pretty pleased. I was hoping that we would be right around 500 when Altuve got back, and 27-19, and so we're almost to that 600 winning percentage mark. If you're playing 600 ball, you're probably going to be invited to the dance at the end of the year. And so the fact that you're almost there as a team and you're getting your spark plug, your team captain back, I think is good. And I think the fact that there is pitching help coming at some point during the summer, hopefully, I think is good. And at some point, you kind of hope that Jose Abreu figures it out, which would be good. But 9-1 the last 10, 7-game win streak. We've got a positive run differential, and with teams above 500, you're 13-8. So, you just kind of just hope to continue getting the wheels greased and moving, and all of a sudden this team starts putting together more and more wins. So that's all today. Should check back in sometime during the 17-game run, and yeah. Summer's here pretty much officially now, and so the dog days are going to set in a little bit, I think, for some of these clubs, but usually that means Houston's about to kind of heat up and go on a run, if anything from the last 6 years has remains true for this year. So I'll see you next time.